Welcome back. All right. Section 2, Sadhana Pada, Sutra 16. Heyaṃ duḥkham anāgatam. Heyaṃ duḥkham anāgatam. To be avoided, misery, not yet come in future. The misery which is not yet come can and is to be avoided. Great. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure out how to avoid the misery. Well, if it's coming, it's coming. How can you avoid? I don't know. All right. The next question which naturally arises is whether it is possible to avoid the misery which has been shown to be inherent in human life in the last sutra. A large number of thoughtful people who have pondered deeply over this problem will perhaps concede that life is essentially an unalloyed misery, but they will say that one has to take life as it is and to make the best of it, since there is no way of getting out of it except through the gateway of death. They may not believe, like the ordinary Orthodox religious man, that all the sorrows and sufferings will somehow be compensated in the afterlife, life after death, but they do not see what can be done in the matter except to accept thankfully the little pleasures and to bear the pains with stoic indifference. Now, it is in this respect that the philosophy of yoga differs fundamentally from most of the Orthodox religions of the world, which offer nothing better than an uncertain and nebulous happiness in the life after death. They say, in effect, lead a good life to ensure happiness after death, put your faith in God, and hope for the best. According to yogic philosophy, death no more solves your spiritual problem than night solves your economic problem. If you are poor, you do not expect on going to bed that your economic problem will be automatically solved next day. You will have to get up the next day and begin where you left off the previous night. If you are poor economically, you do not expect to get rich overnight, and if you are poor spiritually, bound by illusions and limitations of all kinds, you cannot expect to become enlightened in your next life. Or, if you do not believe in reincarnation, in the vague and unending life which is supposed to follow death. According to the yogic philosophy, it is possible to rise completely above the illusion and miseries of life and to gain infinite knowledge, bliss, and power through enlightenment here and now while we are still living in the physical body. And if we do not attain this enlightenment while we are still alive, we will have to come back again and again into this world until we have accomplished this appointed task. So it is not a question of choosing the path of yoga or rejecting it. It is a question of choosing it now or in some future life. It is a question of gaining enlightenment as soon as possible and avoiding the suffering in the future, or postponing the effort and going through further suffering, which is unnecessary and avoidable. This is the meaning of Sutra 16. No vague promise of an uncertain post-mortem happiness is this, but a definite scientific assertion of a fact verified by the experience of innumerable yogis, saints, and sages who have trodden the path of yoga throughout the ages. So they're basically saying you transcend the misery. You don't really end it. You avoid it by transcending it. All right. According to the yogic philosophy, it is possible to rise completely above the illusions and miseries of life and to gain infinite knowledge, bliss, and power through enlightenment here and now while we are still living in the physical body. And if we do not attain this enlightenment while we are still alive, we will have to come back again and again into this world until we have accomplished this appointed task. So it is not a question of choosing the path of yoga or rejecting it. It is a question of choosing it now or in some future life. It is a question of gaining enlightenment as soon as possible and avoiding the suffering in the future, or postponing the effort and going through further suffering, which is unnecessary and avoidable. This is the meaning of Sutra 16. No vague promise of an uncertain post-mortem happiness is this, but a definite scientific assertion of a fact verified by the experience of innumerable yogis, saints, and sages who have trodden the path of yoga throughout the ages. There you go. 17. Draṣṭṛdṛśyayoḥ saṃyogo heyahetuḥ. Draṣṭṛdṛśyayoḥ saṃyogo heyahetuḥ. Of Seer, Purusha, and Seen, Prakriti, union, association of, that which is to be avoided, cause. The cause of that which is to be avoided is the union of the seer and the seen. Remember? So you're entangling, right? Further away from reality you get, the more veils drop down, right? The more entangled you become. So once that first veil drops, you start to become entangled, and you become more and more entangled, right? Now we come to the question of means, not the actual technique of yoga, which has to be employed, but the general principle on which the freedom from the kleshas has to be worked out. It is to be noted that the objective is not a temporary and partial solution of the problem, but a permanent and complete solution, not a palliative, but a remedy, which will root out the disease altogether. If the disease is to be rooted out, we must go to the root cause of the malady and not bother about the mere outward superficial symptoms. What is the root cause of the misery, which is caused by the kleshas, and which is to be avoided? The answer is given in this sutra, Sutra 17. The nature of the seer and the seen, and the reason why they are yoked together, are explained in the subsequent sutras, but before dealing with those questions, let us try to understand the problem in a general way. It has already been pointed out in dealing with the nature of asmita, or the tendency of consciousness to identify itself with its vehicles, that this process begins with the coming together of consciousness and matter as a result of the veil of Maya involving it in illusion and subsequent avidya. This problem, which is linked with the origin of things and takes us back to the question of the initial involution of the individual consciousness and matter, is really one of the ultimate problems of philosophy, about which philosophers have been speculating since the beginning of time. It is like all such problems beyond the scope of the limited intellect, and it is no use trying to solve it through the agency of the intellect. It can be solved, or it would perhaps be better to use the word dissolved. It can be solved, or it would perhaps be better to use the word dissolved, only in the light of the transcendent knowledge we can gain in enlightenment. So let us not try to answer the question why the Purusha, who is pure and perfect, is yoked to Prakriti. Let us hold our soul in patience and wait till we have transcended the intellect and its illusions, and are face to face with that reality, capital R, which holds within itself the answer to this ultimate question. But though we cannot know the answer to this fundamental question, there is no difficulty in understanding that such yoking together has taken place, and also that this yoking is the cause of the bondage. But though we cannot know the answer to this fundamental question, there is no difficulty in understanding that such yoking together has taken place, and also that this yoking is the cause of the bondage. Yoking always means bondage, even in ordinary life, and that it should be the cause of bondage in the case of the Purusha is quite conceivable. But what is the nature of the bondage it is impossible to conceive beyond what is given in the philosophy of kleshas? We know that, in the real sense of the term, would be to know the ultimate mystery of life, and to have reached enlightenment already. Surely that is the end, what the aspirant sets out to achieve through yoga. After pointing out the cause of bondage in Sutra 17, namely the yoking together of the seer and the seen, or the entanglement of pure consciousness in matter, Patanjali proceeds to explain the essential nature of the seer and the seen. In the two following sutras, 18 and 19, he has put in a nutshell all the essential facts which concern the phenomenal world, and thus given us a masterly analysis of the scene. So, I'm going to stop there for now, but I am going to read 18. The scene, the objective side of manifestation, consists of the elements and sense organs, is of the nature of cognition, activity, and stability, sattva, rajas, and tamas, gunas, and has for its purpose providing the purusha with experience and liberation. So the whole reason is liberation, experience that leads to liberation. Great, that's great. All right. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time.